I've lost count of how many times I've said to people, buy an EV, it'll save you a load of money. And you know, it does. Day to day, month to month, the cost of putting electricity in your car compared to petrol or diesel, you're going to save a packet. But that's not the full picture. The cost of an EV compared to the cost of an ICE car of an equivalent standard, it's actually substantially more to buy that EV. So if you take that into consideration, actually, what is the true cost of ownership? Morning. This comparison turned out to be a little bit more tricky than I thought. I want to do a true like for like, not a Renault Zoe against a BMW M3. I want to try and get two cars that are almost identical. So the best way I could find to do that was to stick with one make. So I've chosen Nissan. I'm going to look at the Nissan Leaf, in particular the new one, and I'm going to compare that to the Nissan Pulsar, which is a similar size car, probably aimed at the same sort of market. But that's where the similarities ended, because it became a little bit tricky there. The spec levels on each car were slightly different. So I couldn't say a Tecna is the same as a Tecna, because there's an awful lot more on a Nissan Leaf than there is on a Pulsar. So I've had to spec up the Pulsar and spec down the Leaf to try and get them kind of matching, kind of quite similar. And even then, with the Pulsar being a Tecna and the Leaf being an Ascenta, the Leaf still had more on it than the Tecna did. It's very, very difficult, is what I'm saying, to get a true comparison, but this is as close as I could get. And I told you it was quite tricky. Look at all this paperwork. So I started off with, as I said, a Leaf Ascenta, which, again, everything I talk about, you'll be able to find cheaper, more expensive, other variants of it, but this is the base for my comparison, if you like. So Leaf Ascenta, £25,190. Pulsar Tecna, £20,910. I'm going to do this comparison over 12,000 miles per year. Kind of the average. I know some people do an awful lot more, some people do an awful lot less, but that's your average. The Pulsar, I was looking at the 1.5 litre DCI. It's a diesel engine. It says it does over 75 miles to the gallon. Actually, when you look at it, people talk about real world, probably about 60 miles to the gallon. If we look at the cost of diesel at the moment, average sort of price in this country, about £1.32 a litre. If you look at that over 12,000 miles for 1 year, that works out at £1,200 in diesel. Now, if you do the same mileage in the Leaf, I've worked it out on my home electricity. Mine is about 13p per kilowatt hour. That's £431 in electric. So already you can see a nice saving there. So the difference in prices there, if you were to buy and run it for a period of 5 years, I thought that was, for me, the average sort of time I own a car. The Leaf Ascenta would work out £27,345. That's to buy and to run. The Pulsar Tecna would work out at £26,910. So over 5 years, it's £435 less to own a diesel car. But that's not the full story, is it? Because you've got to think about servicing costs, tax costs, etc. So let's put some servicing costs in. Now, again, you can go elsewhere and get these service prices a lot cheaper, but I've stuck like for like Nissan main dealer servicing. So over a period of 5 years, I've worked out that you have 3 major services and 2 minor services. For the Leaf, a major service is £199, a minor service is £149. For a diesel car, for the Pulsar, a major service is £319 and the minor one is £219. So the Leaf is £845 in servicing costs over the 5 years. The Pulsar, £1,295. So now we've got a some more totals. We look at for the Leaf, for all those running costs, £28,190. For the Pulsar, £28,205. So now we're starting to see the tide changing a little bit. It's £15 more expensive over 5 years to include the servicing costs to have a diesel Pulsar. Again, you might say that's not a lot of difference. Let's throw in some road tax as well. What's the road tax on a Leaf? Nothing. On the Pulsar, £145 a year. So over 5 years, that's £725. So now you can see how we're starting to add up. And that total price of all of that for the Leaf is £28,190. And just to give you an idea, if you're not in the UK, that's about $37,000. For the Pulsar, that's £28,930, about $38,000. So it's now £740 more to have that Pulsar. £740 probably doesn't sound a massive amount, but remember, the electricity for 12,000 miles in a Leaf is £431 a year. So we're kind of a year and a half of electricity saved, that's £740. And let's not forget, I've driven a Pulsar several times. I've done several hundred miles in them. They're nowhere near as refined as the Leaf. Absolutely haven't got a patch on them. No matter what extras you have in there, it's still a diesel car. It still makes a lot of noise. It still trundles along. You've still got to change gear. It's nowhere near the same driving experience as it is an electric car. So in 5 years, 12,000 miles a year, that's 60,000 miles in total. So what else can we think about? Well, I think the Leaf has probably proved, and EVs as a whole have proved that, you know, over 5 years, 60,000 miles, there's not a lot else to go wrong, not a lot else to happen. The brakes are okay because of the regen. There's no cam belts. There's no spark plugs. There's nothing. There's none of that other stuff to do. Where on the diesel one there is. So without going into cost, because again they vary, they're all things you've got to factor into it. While I was looking at this, I thought I'd do a comparison on used cars. So I thought if we look at a 2016 model, 2016 30 kilowatt hour Nissan Leaf compared to a 2016 1.5 DCI Pulsar. 20,000 miles when I was to buy it, so kind of a low mileage used car from 2016. The difference in price was about £4,000, so it's £4,000 more expensive to buy the Leaf. Well, then I started doing all the figures, but actually it just exaggerates what we already know with that smaller price difference. So there was no point in going any further other than to say, actually, it's a slightly older car now, and how many more things could go wrong. I think it's 75,000 miles when you got to start thinking about the timing belt. Well, you're going to start pushing around that anyway. It's probably at this point you're thinking, well, that's all well and good. You are talking about going out with a load of cash and buying a car outright. I can't afford to do that. I have to finance it or do it some other way. Well, that's the exact position that I'm in. So whilst that's a handy comparison, because it's simple, isn't it? That is the cash price and that's how you can do the comparison. I don't pretend to have all the answers. There's so many different ways you could buy a car of any description, whether it's contract hire, lease, PCP, however you want to look at it or whatever you want to label it. There's loads and loads of different ways you can buy a car. The only other way that I could describe it or explain it is through my own personal experience. And that was when I was buying this car. I, at the time, was looking to buy a second-hand, low-mileage diesel Ford Fiesta. I wanted it as a runaround car that I could use for about 5 years and then replace and get another one. I intended to take a bank loan out to do that, and that bank loan would have lasted over 5 years with the intention that when the 5 years ended, I would get another bank loan for another 5 years and then get a new car. So that was what I intended to do. And then I was obviously told about the Leaf and I got lots of information about the Leaf. And the more I looked into it and saw the savings that I could make, I then started to do some of my own comparisons. And a very long story short, because this did go on for a few months, the cost of owning a brand new top of the range Nissan Leaf Tekna was, with all the running costs, was cheaper than me buying a second-hand, lowish mileage Ford Fiesta diesel. So for me, that was all it was about. It was about saving money. It was about seeing that actually this is a car that is perfectly capable of meeting my needs, and it's going to save me money. So that's the only other experience, if you like, that I can give you that shows you that however you choose to buy or finance a car, every time for me the winner comes out to be an electric vehicle, because at the end of the day the running costs are what keeps the price of it down. And the more miles you do, obviously the bigger that gap and the better the running costs become. But let me know, what do you think? Have you had different experiences? Have you had something vastly different, or are we kind of similar? Are you breaking even or even getting better economy from having an electric vehicle? Let me know in the comments. It's always good to have a discussion. And if you're somebody who's looking to buy and you're kind of sat on the fence and just trying to work out what you can afford and whether it'll work for you, then hopefully this video has given you some answers. And if it doesn't, pop something in the comments, because there's so many people that have got the answers, certainly a lot more than me a lot of the time. Stick some comments down there, ask your questions, and there will be, if not me, somebody will be along and be able to answer them for you. So hopefully that's been of some use for you. But that's it for today. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, remember to like and share. And if you're not doing so already, subscribe to the channel. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at EVOpinion. And don't forget, if you want to support the channel, pop along to Patreon, have a look at the page there. The link's going to be at the end of the video, and that'll be brilliant. So for now, thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.